Okay, so um, thanks to everyone for showing up. We haven't had this meeting in a while, so I see some new faces, and I will try to do some also brief introduction, like what exactly are we doing here, and also what we did since last time we've met. Um, yeah, so the intro. What is the VM2? What are we trying to do here? So basically, we are trying to uh, first of all address shortcomings of VM1. Like, for example, some of the features will not be surfaced to the end user, so that would make it easier for developers to onboard. For example, UREFs wouldn't be surfaced; they wouldn't be um, the it wouldn't be a like usable feature in the VM2. So there will be alternatives to that. For example, Porsches wouldn't be surfaced to the user. Instead, we will have payable entry points, which is like bridging the gap with other smart contract platforms that like it's fair to say payable entry points are like de facto standard in the blockchain world. It's easier to maintain. I have slide for later on that, but we also simplify the interface even more, even easier to explain the low level interface to the people who wants to develop their own SDKs if they want to. And as you can see on the right side, the SDK we will ship will try to bridge the gap with. Sorry, it will try to. Well, I mean, in looking very high level, it will also try to bridge the gap with other contract platforms that also focus on the high level. So people should be familiar with the development. In other words, the idea is that if you feel productive with Rust, you should be also productive on Casper platform. It shouldn't be. We wouldn't require you to learn low level details and type like um, more. I can describe VM1 development more like a low level approach, while in VM2 we are trying not to make it look like it is blockchain project. If you take away all the attributes, it should be still valid idiomatic Rust code. That's the idea here. This is Hello World contract we've developed in Wrocław. It is basically has three parts, two parts basically. There's the state model of your contract and the implementation of entry point. So each of those is a separate entry point. You can set a greeting and get a greeting. So you also have a constructor. That is also something missing in the VM1. I know there is some convention in the community of doing constructors, but this will be the the host. The host will help you with this constructor. So you're supposed to create your model here. Not worry about kind of moving your URLs or your data into the created contract through name keys. Yeah. There's many other more complicated smart contracts in the repo in the VM2 directory. Like we have implementation of CP18, CP78, Clipper, other contracts that are exercising all the aspects of new VM. I don't want to spend also too much time on this slide. I can answer questions on Telegram. We've done this many times in the past. I know there's many new faces, but so I mentioned Wrocław. In Poland, we've met the core team met in person in Poland 2 weeks ago. If I remember correctly, we spent 1 week like tinkering and designing and talking about EVM. So we've had lots of output of that. We created many tickets. We we talk about many aspects of the new VM. We also found ways to even simplify or improve what we need. We found things that we didn't plan for, that we have planned for now. And yeah, it was very exhausting week, but I think we have finalized plan for VM2 for 2.1 release. What we are focusing on now is mostly data model still. We are still trying to integrate with the data model of the VM1 while also trying to implement missing features for the release. Like you can see, it's just an example. We had like many papers, as you can see, but like this is one of the examples of type the discoverability of contract metadata. So yeah, so this is something we captured and we have like tickets and plan for, and this would be, I think, really nice feature for the developers. Basically, it means at the point of installation, we will create the data structures on the global state for you to be able to infer what are the types of arguments, what is the entry point, and it will be host enforced. And the host will also help you with some safety features, like if your entry point is marked as it's immutable, then the host can also help you with some security. Like you wouldn't be able to. I mean, you still can, but you can also. If someone wants to trick you into signing execution of entry point that is mutating state and might steal your tokens, then the host can help you with discoverability, right? So I can imagine like wallets using this feature can say, you're trying to assign this, let's say, getter endpoint, but it's actually it's marked as mutable. So the host will not allow some mutations of the state. And you can also have option not find that deploy if you know in advance, right? That's also something that we didn't address in VM1. But in VM2, it should be safer for the users. Yeah, I can say like this meeting on site was, I think, first time in a few years, maybe, or at least a year or two that we had really everyone involved in the core development, and we had like a meeting only for the developers, and so we spent a lot of time talking, discussing, developing, coding, and designing stuff. Yeah, I'm hoping we can do this more often. It's very helpful and very productive. So as I said on the previous slide, we basically captured all the necessary work to be able to release new VM for 2.1 release. We have all the necessary tickets. We take like we have a backlog of stuff to do. We've defined what is the minimum we need to ship for DevNet for 2.1. Then we have planned for testnet. We also plan to address some feedback from DevNet release for testnet, and then we will try to iterate quickly once we have something out the door. And the ongoing progress, ongoing work happens in the Fit 2.1 branch. I understand the GitHub still has dev branch as the main branch. When you go to the project page, we still the reason is that we still have to maintain the mainnet, the network basically. So it's easier for us to still develop new VM in the Fit 2.1 branch. We plan to merge it shortly. We are making progress on that. In the meantime, we had point.
Yeah, the plan is to merge it after this sprint.
Yeah. So in the meantime, we had some changes made to the mainnet that weren't public, and after that, I think it's already happening. As Ed said, we are doing that already. We've merged a lot of PRs that are integrating with the data model still. For example, one of the issues in the early implementation of VM2 was that it was implemented with addressable entity in mind. In the 2.0, we didn't enable this flag yet, but most of the implementation relied on that being the default. So we implemented account contract support as well. We also bridged, like we VM2 can also call into system contracts. So that's something that will be helpful if you want to stake contracts, stake tokens, for example, or call bit auction from your contract. So there's less and less differences between both VMs. We did some progress on the sandbox / speculative mode for VM2. We call it sandbox mode for VM2. So basically, it allows you to call FPC, and the FPC will execute the VM in the new VM, and it will execute your smart contract. And then it will allow you to extract the output of that smart contract. So more like for people familiar with EVM, it's very similar to a view entry point that you can get basically just implement your getter and then use the sandbox to use that getter. So I believe this is very helpful for your, let's say, front end of your the app to talk to your backend, which is on the blockchain. And there is a bunch of other features implemented. We in Wrocław we define the execution flow more carefully. We have ability for contracts to return. We've had a revert in the VM2. And we also need an abort, so we kind of don't want to fit every possible error case in the VM execution with revert. And we will be able also to abort the execution with a string message, which is more like a very hard error, like, I don't know, your memory allocator failed and you should use abort instead of revert because you don't want to recover from abort, right? You want to port all the execution stack or the contracts that called to you, right? So revert will be something that is still passing back the cursor for the caller. Return is just the default mode where you just return some data. So there's like 3 stages. We implemented VM1. The hashing is not really super nice feature. It's done in VM1. We didn't have this for VM2, so you basically have cost optimized hashing. Same as in VM1. We've also implemented zero knowledge proof system port through ALPN 128 first math mythic, and with that implemented, we should be able to implement, let's say, growth 16 algorithm, which is used, I think, in risk zero ephemeral reserves. We've had a proof of concept for VM1. We didn't go with it because we needed to do some more work, more research. But for VM2, it's implemented. We have tests. It's just a matter of community picking up this work, porting the for example, risk zero verifier on chain with host optimized cryptography. That will be a really nice feature. I think it should, if possible, if that's done, if we have like someone implementing verifier or zkVM using this math, it will be possible for other projects to implement like trustless bridges using zkP for verification. And last but not least, we also did some work on the safety of the new VM. For example, we have implementation for basically mostly porting regression tests from VM1 regarding memory safety. We have like nice test suite for verifying that your bytecode doesn't have some kind of unsafe intentions, to put it mildly. We do have checks in place to reject execution of such bytecode. And yeah, in the meantime, also we defined the as on the screen on the picture I attached. I'm finishing up on the discoverability story. We do have schema, I think, more or less finalized the output, and then it's just a matter of setting it up on the blockchain, which I'm doing right now. We will have off-chain, on-chain discoverability, and that's will be on that should be part of the 2.1 release as well. There's more. I don't remember when we did this meeting last time, but there's probably more. If you guys look at the PRs list, and I know it might not look like that branch has much activity, but the reality is that the P2.1, like all the PRs that are new and part of new release is targeted at P2.1. So that's where the work happens. And I think, yeah, we can move to QA. I think we have still some time. As I mentioned, we had this meeting a long time ago, so if there's some questions, we can maybe. Well, I mean, the dev team is here, so we can also all collectively respond to questions.
Yes, please use the chat if you have any questions. Just send a message in the call.
Or raise your hand and speak up. I mean, it's a small group. We can do voice questions as well.
Yeah. I can make anyone contributor, actually. If anyone wants to raise voice, just let me know. Or I can do one by one. Okay. I can see something coming up in the Q&A. So the first one is, are there any performance comparisons between VM1 and VM2?
Yes. VM1 is using interpreter for bytecode, and VM2 is using ahead of time compiler to turn bytecode into on-machine code. So the costs are lower. I know you're anonymous, but I have results. I have a benchmark on my computer. I did cost estimation for opcodes for VM2 a while ago, and I can still dig them up and rerun the benchmarks to give you rough overview in terms of performance.
We presented it in a previous version of this call, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
but I don't remember when was the time. Yes.
Yeah. So it's also available, I think, on YouTube or wherever we posted the recording of the previous meeting.
Right. Yes, I will work with Adrian and dig them up, or we will extract and we can propose. I mean, we can show it to you, or if it's on YouTube, then you can check the YouTube as well. I will maybe briefly remind what is the model in VM2. So in VM2, since it's ahead of time compiler, we have I estimated that cycles per each WASM instruction, and we have a multiplier to turn them into a gas cost. So it's more. I feel with VM2 we have more control in the performance, closer to the metal rather than the interpreter, which has overhead per each operation. So yeah.
Yeah, so basically when we put this to DevNet, it'd be a good time to also remeasure Yeah, because we've made a lot of changes. We've added a lot of features. So before we move this along past, integration network, particularly, we should just remeasure, run the same profiling, see if we can get some new numbers.
Yeah,
But
that's the point. Yeah,
the
because we all.
well, the main takeaway is it's faster,
Yep.
significantly faster. And then how much faster is going to depend largely on what you're doing. So high opcode, especially branching logic, things like that, or things that just have a lot of activity. The gas model in particular, beyond even precompiled versus interpreted, the way that gas is counted and tracked in VM1 versus VM2 is handled on a callback to the host, which is slower. And VM2 doesn't do that. So there's not just one place we're getting speed ups. It's generally across the board more efficient. So yeah, so it's just generally faster. We have some measurements from before. We've continued to add capabilities and features, so we'll remeasure before we roll this out to test at mainnet.
Okay, I am taking off the host management, so everyone should be able to speak and send messages. And there. I can see one more question in the Q&A. Are there example contracts or tutorials to try on VM2?
Yeah, there's some contracts in the on the repo in remind me, it's in contracts VM2, I want to say.
Yes, contracts VM2. I can send the link in the meantime.
Yeah, smart contracts, and then there's a subfolder called VM2. And there's also some test contracts as well that we use to test essentially the mechanisms and so forth. So those are also available as examples of working contracts. Are not intended for like production usage. They're explicitly testing the FFIs and so forth, but they're also available.
I send the link to the directory with the contracts.
Yeah, so we've got probably we've got a variety of like simple basic things like a hello world and a counter and a Boolean flag flipper, and then some more complicated ones as well. So there's a pretty wide set of examples there.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, looking at the chat, nothing there. Let me just see the Q&A section. I think we've got both covered. I'm just gonna mark them as answered. Guys, anything else?
Yeah, let me give a quick timeline. So basically, right now we're in what we think is the last sprint before we put this to DevNet. We're buttoning up mostly items that came out of the Wrocław visit. Some enhancements and some tweaks that we wouldn't be able to do later because they would be breaking changes. So so far we're on track. So the plan is, barring any unforeseen obstacles, after the sprint is done and the last PR emerges, we should then be able to both put this to DevNet, which is an automated process now, and then also merge 2.1 to dev, the dev branch on the main repo. And then at that point, there may be, tuning and optimization, or if anyone finds bugs, but that would be, a release candidate, right? And then we have some documentation and some downstream work to follow, some adjustments to the sidecar on the client to make on the basis of the release being available. But those will be happening, as the is the node itself is going from DevNet to integration net, right? So yeah, so basically we're, as they say, the light at the end of the tunnel. And so we're looking to get people using this and on it in the next couple of weeks and start giving us like active feedback if there's anything that needs to be changed or added before we ship this. This is the time window in which to, you know, ideally make that available. So, it's easier for us to make those changes now than, you know, after we've shipped it to mainnet and it becomes a, you know, a whole other thing, right?
Sorry, I was on mute. Looking at the chat and the Q&A, I don't see anything else there. So I think we're good to wrap up. Thanks, Michał. Thank you, Ed. Thanks, Michael. And see you guys on the next one.
Thanks everyone for joining.